Hello and welcome to another episode of Interview with a Schizophrenic. Today I have Aaron with me. He is in the United Kingdom in Birmingham. So Aaron, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. So I don't know too much about Aaron's backstory, so let's find out. So Aaron, why don't you tell me about how your mental health journey began?
So it all began, I think, really with smoking a lot of weed, which I started when I was 16, 17. And then, so I began to hear voices around the time I was 17, 18. And it was just
Yeah.
two female voices that would talk to me and they'd sort of comment on my actions and say, I thought they had control over, the recommended videos on YouTube. And so when I read them, it seemed like it was sort of secret messages that they'd placed for me, and I would read through them and think I was reading a sort of story that they'd made. But anyway, so it developed from that. It got worse and worse until I thought it was the neighbors because I had two young female neighbors, and so I tried to sort of talk to them and communicate with them, and it ended up with me getting sectioned, which is involuntary admitted to hospital. So I was taken to hospital in July 2019, and I was there for 3 months. And initially, I was just diagnosed with
What,
psychosis. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I saw it'd be interesting for me to know what the hospital was like because I've been one of my friends was in a ward last year. I visited him and it was a lot different to when I was in a ward. So why don't you tell me about the hospital?
I think the hospital is very restrictive. I think the main qualm I have with it is that they don't allow you to smoke cigarettes, which leads
Yeah.
to sort of like a underground, everyone's smuggling cigarettes and paying extortionate prices for them. But in terms of the day to day, the staff are great and there's quite a lot of liberty, so you're allowed to have your phones and stuff, which I think is great. I think overall it was a needed experience. It wasn't very pleasurable, but it was needed.
Did it give you peace?
Pardon?
Did you Were you able to relax in there and were you able to get back some of your sanity?
You know what? I think my sanity only deteriorated the longer I was in there. So other patients sort of fed my delusions, and I sort of started to think that it was like a secret recruitment camp for the telepathic Illuminati. So it wasn't actually great for my sanity. I think coming home did a lot more to help me get sane.
Yeah. So how old are you? What's your age?
I'm 18. I'm 19 next week, but I'm 18 at the moment.
Okay, fine. Fine. So yeah, you're quite young. Are you a student?
I'm going to be a student. I've joined university. I'm starting in September, so I'm quite excited about that.
Okay, what are you gonna study?
Business and business management.
Okay, cool. Okay, so fine. So yeah, I mean, I also when I was younger, I also did smoke a lot of weed, and I think that was a factor in my psychosis as well.
It
Um,
triggers it, doesn't it? It sort of triggers it early.
yeah, so THC is psychoactive,
Mm,
um, and that's what they say encourages psychosis, whereas the CBD is anti-anxiolytic, which is like anti-anxiety, and it sort of counterbalances THC. Um,
but with
but
modern strains, they're just 90% THC, so you
yeah,
don't really get that benefit, do you?
I think the weed strains now compared to what I smoked about 20 years ago, they're much stronger in THC. Um,
Yeah, they're
I,
up to
you
like
know,
20, 25%. It's crazy.
yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So why don't you tell me more about? So you continue your story. You went into hospital and then what happened?
So I think initially I realized, oh, okay, these weren't really my neighbors. I'm just hearing voices. And I think the main mistake I made is on the advice of one of the other patients who said that the medication was poison. I allowed that to get into my head, and I decided to sort of put the medication under my tongue and spit it out, even though it was oral dispersible, but it still only gave a partial effect, and that I think led to my deterioration. So I started to develop a lot of delusions. So I was thinking that all the people in there had been given lines and they were all there for me, and it was like a big test. And I did things like kicked in the door to the store cupboard because I thought I had one of the guys asked me to retrieve him some property from in there. So I thought, yeah, I need to do that. It's like a task for me. So I did a lot of sort of out there things, but I didn't get into any fights. There were lots of fights going on. I
Yeah.
think that's a big sort of criticism of it is a bit like prison. You eat prison food and there's a lot of fights going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I. So when I visited my friend last year, what I noticed was how much more secure it was compared to when I was in. Like there was like a locked front door and then a locked door for the ward, and each patient's bedroom was securely locked. It was a lot more. It looks a lot more like prison than when I was in hospital.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, that's what I noticed.
to get into your room, you have to ask the one of the nurses to unlock it and then lock it again. So you can actually you and then you can unlock it from the inside, but if you close the door, it locks again. So they've got a sort of locking system with all the doors, but you are able to go and get your privacy, but you have to ask a nurse, which can be a process in of itself because you have to knock on the office door and wait for one of them to be available, which can take 20 minutes, half an hour just to do simple things like get into your room. So it is a really sort of it makes you patient. You have to be patient
Yeah,
to get by in there, and obviously that aggravates a lot of patients. So they'll be waiting for 20 minutes, and then that gets them really angry and riled up, and they're shouting and screaming and want to fight everyone. So yeah, I think some of the designs of the ward led to issues.
yeah. So, what is your diagnosis then at the moment?
So initially it was psychosis, but after I had a second episode, then it was changed to schizophrenia.
Okay, fine. So, do you want to talk about your symptoms?
Um, so at the moment, I still have delusions. Like when out on a walk, I've got a dog. When I'm walking the dog, I think that people are out to attack me, and that because it stems from real life issues that I've had. I've been stabbed. I've been, I've had money put on my head. So I've gone through a lot of and that traumatic experiences, and that is genuine. That's like the police came to my house to warn me and my family about it. That's not just a delusion. But I've
Okay,
had a lot of real life stress, which I think contributes to it as well, and like a tipping point into psychosis. And it's sort of the psychosis manifests itself around that. So I have delusions that people are going to attack me because I've been walking and people have just attacked me out of nowhere.
okay, fine. I mean, because I think I've talked about this before. I think statistically, it's always like 1 in 100 people get schizophrenia.
Right.
So, I think the trauma and the weed smoking, it's like it doesn't help, but I don't think those two factors alone would make you have schizophrenia. But they would perhaps encourage it if you were already predisposed. Do you know what I mean? It would be
Yeah,
like
it sort of develops earlier.
it's like yeah, yeah. So your delusions were persecutory delusions that you thought people were going to harm you.
Exactly. Yeah. I also had delusions of grandeur, thinking that I was going to be able to, that I was going to join some secret Illuminati group that was telepathic, and that would allow me to sort of run the world in a way, and that all the ads on TV were sort of about me and my like journey to join them and like other facets of their organization. So I was really out there, but I've recovered off those with the help of the medication. I'm on a paraperidone injection, which is or depot they call it, which is once a month, and it really helps sort of deal with the symptoms and delusions. But it does have some side effects. So uh, my hands get sort of shaky and my arms get contorted upwards, and it gives you a terrible sort of brain fog where you think you can't really think clearly, which is not preferable. It's not ideal, but it's preferable to having schizophrenia badly, I guess.
How do your friends and family react to all of this?
All right. So with my friends, I put some crazy stuff on my Instagram story when I was in hospital, sort of talking about the devil and how it was a Holocaust camp. And so a lot of people that I was sort of acquaintances with, they've distanced themselves from me, but my close friends sort of just they've been along with
Right.
me for the journey.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think like on Facebook, I'll post some pretty crazy stuff, and I will lose
Yeah,
friends. On my, but there's always my close friends. They just don't seem to mind about it. Oh yeah, Duncan's whatever. He's just a bit. He does that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I think most of them are kind of okay, but it is still difficult to talk about. I think I mean
It's very
it's
stigmatized.
difficult to talk. Yeah. Have you experienced any stigma or discrimination?
Um, well, I think for a while when I got out of hospital, I was trying to get a job, and I put on my CV that I had psychosis, and I didn't get any interviews until I took that off my CV. So I think there is a lot of just innate discrimination against people with psychosis and schizophrenia that they don't want to employ them because they see it as a risk. So as soon as I took that off my CV, I got a job working in a warehouse. But before that,
Yeah.
it was going nowhere. So I think there is a lot of sort of societal discrimination against it, especially in the working world. But like, uh, yeah, especially in the working world.
But so what are your plans for the future? You want to get your degree, and then what do you want to do?
Eventually, I'd like to start my own business. I was sort of involved with a small startup before that was doing Bitcoin trading, and that was really successful. And I made a lot of money doing that, and it's sort of given me a taste for what it's like, and I really love it. So I think one day I want to start my own business after my business degree.
Yeah, because I think working does is helps a lot because um, if you're not working, you've got to claim disability benefits. It can be quite stressful because you've always got to get reassessed, and you don't have much money, and it can be quite a stressful experience. Whereas just going for it and just giving life the best shot and earning money is definitely worth it. So
Yeah, it can be hard. I think I did notice some challenges whilst I was working in the warehouse. So I got called crazy by a couple of people, and like sometimes when I was walking down the hall, because it was a big sort of building, when I was walking around, I would sort of feel like an impending doom sensation and get really worried. But it didn't impact me too much. I was able to get on with my job. But it's definitely a part of working with schizophrenia. You do have to sort of deal with the 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 symptoms whilst you're working, which can be an extra challenge, but it's definitely overcomable if you put your mind to it.
yeah. So tell me, you told me about your delusions. Do you have hallucinations as well?
I've only had one hallucination in my life where I was looking at my floor and I saw a spider come out of the floor and walk around for a bit, and then it sort of sunk back into the floor. But I've only had that one visual hallucination, so
Yeah,
hopefully it doesn't get worse regarding that. But delusions, I mean, I think so especially when I was in hospital is when I had the most delusions, and
yeah,
I used to sort of think that every other patient in there was completely sane, and that they were in there to test me and
yeah.
challenge me. So uh, I would try and sort of take the piss out of them or go along with their tests, and thought they gave me tasks to complete.
How, how did you get out of that delusion? What did you have to do?
Just get out of hospital. Really, it didn't leave me for the whole time I was in hospital. I think it only left me once I was out of hospital, and I started to sort of assess reality a bit more. Like, okay, nothing has happened. I haven't joined a secret Illuminati, so maybe that wasn't true. That wasn't the case.
It's kind of like when you go back to a safe environment, like your home where you've grown up. You know, think objects and people, they bring you back to who you really are. Do you know?
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? So I think that
yeah.
that comfort, that safety, can really help. I mean, so tell me, how do you feel about what people think about schizophrenia? What
I think
its image?
it's got a bad image. There's a sort of an image that people who have it are violent and that they want to attack people or they're crazy and you have to stay away from them. But I think we're just normal people who have got some issues that we have to deal with. But I don't think I don't think that it's represented in media very well. Apart from in some TV shows, like there was one Maniac
That's
despite the
brilliant.
name, it represents it really well. And sort of, I think there's a scene where he goes up to someone whose his voices have said that this is going to be your like leader or something to save the world, and then they go along with the delusion, and then it's sort of brought back to reality. And I thought I really related to that scene. It sort of exemplifies going through delusions and then coming back to reality. But other shows like Shutter Island, sort of,
Yeah,
have you seen that?
I've seen that as well. Yeah.
I think it's a good film. Like it's an interesting film, but it doesn't really represent schizophrenia. It sort of shows them as violent, manic people who want to blow up cars and stuff and just can't be reasoned with. And I think,
I think in Shutter Island, the whole thing was that he was in psychosis the whole time.
mm,
I'm not. It's difficult to understand what exact. Did they trick him at the end, or was he in psychosis? I don't really know. So it's difficult to work out.
it's a good film, but I don't.
Yeah,
I think it does represent them sort of schizophrenia as being violent because there's a lot of sort of violence that goes on. He's attacking people and he's he blows up a car and that's sort of a plot point that the guy's like, "You blew up my car. I'm really angry about that." But it is quite a
you
good
know, you
film.
know.
But I thought,
Yeah, it's a good. I
go on.
enjoyed it, but like people with schizophrenia are more likely to be victims of violence than be the perpetrators of violence. That's statistically fact because people with schizophrenia are more vulnerable. They often they need someone to guide them on everyday life.
Yeah,
So and in the media, it's all about, oh yeah, some guy killed his wife and the dog, and he's a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia, and that's all you hear, like on in the news. But you never hear, these just normal people. It's just a health condition, and there's a lot of suffering that goes on, and there's a lot of pressure, and we just want to live a normal life without, being stigmatized.
yeah. I relate to that so
So
much. I think I didn't even touch on that, but the media portrayal of schizophrenia is negative, very, very negative, and you do only hear about bad incidents. Like one time, the police were talking to me about it, and he was sort of going on about how this guy just down the road killed his family and then got put got arrested for murder and then put in an asylum. But there's like you only hear the bad side. But I think at the same time, it is important to realize that there is sort of a very dark side of psychosis if it all goes wrong, and it can be completely destructive. But someone who's living with schizophrenia and dealing with the delusions and stuff isn't the same as someone who's in complete mania and psychosis. And I think it's important to recognize the difference between that.
I mean, I think schizophrenia is a lifelong illness. So I do really hope that maybe you'll get to your early 20s and your symptoms will subside. I really hope that's the case because
I
you
hope so
know
too.
because yeah, I mean it's different. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but I mean, for me, I first became ill when I was about. Well, I was in hospital when I was about 24, um, and I'm 45 now, so I'm still psych- going through psychosis. But I don't know. We got we got to just hope for the best, really. So tell me, what when you're at home, what do you like to do to calm your mind, to give you peace? What do you like to do at home for like the
Uh,
coping strategies?
I think in terms of coping strategies, reading is really useful. I've got into books a lot, so if I'm hearing voices, or if I feel like I don't have control over my internal monologue, then reading a
Yeah.
book helps to sort of get control of back over it, and I can sort of it helps bring peace, and it's a really good coping strategy. And I think listening to music as well. I spend a lot of the day just relaxing, listening to music. I think that is a great coping strategy for sort of relaxing and allowing you sort of a bit of sanity to come back into the equation.
Aaron, can I ask you, is there anything which I haven't asked you that you would like to say on this platform?
I think uh, the main thing is if you are a friend of someone with who's going through schizophrenia at the moment, just try your best to support them in any way you can, because it's easy, it's hard losing friends when you go through schizophrenia, and just being there to support them is better than just cutting them off. If you care about them, then do your best, even if they seem delusional. Just go along with the delusions and talk to them and try and connect with them on an emotional level and talk about something sane that they enjoy, maybe a TV show or something, because you can still they're still human. I think that's important to recognize.
I think that's so important, and to support someone, you don't have to do anything special. All you just to need it's just to be there, or just to listen to what they got to say. You don't have to have any particular skills or anything to support somebody. Okay, Aaron, I think we can wrap it up here. What I usually do is play some music. What sort of music do you like?
Oh, I like grime. Do you know what song is? There's a song. Um, my mind's playing tricks on me. I think that's a great
Yeah,
song.
I
Oh,
can't. I got to play royalty free music, but
oh right.
yeah, maybe I'll probably play some hip hop. I know it's not grime, but I'll
Okay,
have a
that's no
look.
problem.
Anyway, it's fantastic to speak with you. Really great pleasure. I think you're very candid, and I think I can sense that you're a brave young man. You want to be as honest as possible, and talk about your experiences. And I think absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Likewise, yeah, it was great speaking with you.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.